Welcome back to the studio. It's Kim with Lolly Doodle Studios, and we're going to do some watercolor today. Right here, you're going to see me just sketching out a little drum. I have been invited to participate in a 12 Days of Christmas playlist, co-hosted by Jeannie's Palette and Nicole Prose of the Sparkle Junkie. Alright, so we start this project off like I start all of my projects off with a quick sketch. Honestly, this one was such a quick sketch. And of course I went with the 12 drummers drumming theme, but I only did one drum. So if you'd like to get a copy of this tracer, just look below in the description box. I'd like to ask you to also check out the complete playlist below in the description box, and be sure to follow our host and co-hosts. So I've grabbed my watercolors here and I'm just mixing up a little bit of red. I kind of wanted to give this a vintage kind of feel, so I'm doing a very muted red. I'm just starting with a soft wash of that color in just certain parts of the drum, and coming in with a little bit of stronger, that same color, but just a little bit stronger to give it a little bit of depth. And I'll use my brush to kind of help move it around a little bit. I could have just left it be, but you know, I can't leave well enough alone. So I'm going to come back in a little bit more and move that color around, as you see here. Watercolor is a lot of like layering. I like to start light and work my way dark. So I want to dry this now because I want to go a little bit darker with the color. I want to go into the green next, I believe, here, but I don't want those two colors to run together. If the red and the green were to meet and both were wet, you know, wherever your paper is wet, the color will flow. So I'm mixing up some green there, and I'll come in those other little triangles of the drum and do a very light wash of the green. And again, we want to dry in between these layers because we don't want it all to run together. And that's what makes our watercolor look muddy. I'm going for vintage, but not muddy. And then again, just like I did with the red, I'm adding a little bit more green to certain areas there, just to give it some interest. And then you'll see that I dry it again. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would tap that thumbs up button just like you would if you were tapping a drum. Be sure to subscribe and check out the entire playlist linked below. Now that I've dried those layers, I'm going in and mixing up a little bit of my buff titanium and some of the darker burnt umber. I'm going to do buff titanium. And as I said, it's just building layers. You can do wet on wet, but because this is such a small piece, I'm drying between a lot of my layers. So you'll see that I glaze. So now I'll glaze a little bit of a darker brown to create somewhat of a shadow. Sticking around the edges. Like I said, this is so small. It's, you know, less than probably 3 inches by 3 inches. So I'm just going to blend that a little bit with the brush. And I'll come over and get a little bit of that darker burnt umber. And I'm going to work on the rim. I'm going to try to leave a little bit of white space. If you really did look in there, there's some white space between the middle of the drum and the rim. And I'm going to try to get in there and do the same thing on the top rim. Don't stress about these things. These little the thing I love about watercolor is it's meant to look painterly. It's not meant to look realistic. So just have fun with this. Don't stress. And again, we hit it with that dryer. We want to dry everything between layers. Let's bring it back in the screen. So I'm going to come in now and I'm going to layer a bit more of that red. You'll see I really went really wet red. And to be honest with you, I kind of wish that I would have left it the way that when I just put that darker red on. So I'm going to use the red now to kind of mark in my drumsticks. But what I meant to say is I wish I would have left more white space. I'm a huge fan of white space. I want to see the white of that paper shining through. But not everything turns out perfect, and that is just a lesson in watercolor, just like it is in life. Kind of just have to roll with it and stop stressing so much. It's not the end of the world. So we give it a quick dry here again. I did go over the drumsticks with some brown, and now I'm going in with some gold, and hitting those areas of the drum with a little bit of gold, and maybe pulling it down to frame between the green and the red. Tapping a little bit around the rim. You know, it's Christmas time. Let's get a little special with things. And then, just because I wanted to make it a little bit special, I'm just tapping in some really simple little leaves, kind of like Christmassy. And then you'll see I put some berries in. I'm going to go darker with the green of the drum, but you're going to see I'm going to come back with a little bit more of that red, and we are going to pop some berries in around the greenery. So we're really spreading that red and green, but it's very vintage looking, which I absolutely love. Like I said, I want it to be soft and have some of that vintage feel. Dropping a little bit of shadows in under the drumsticks, and then a shadow under the drum. And then I'll come in here in just a second with my thin, I'm going to switch brushes to a thin brush with some more of that brightish red. And we're going to just put the 12, the number 12 there up above the drum, so that, you know, we know that this is for the 12th day of Christmas. I want to make sure to invite you to subscribe and follow our channel. Hit that thumbs up if you like this. And I want to know, what part of the 12 days of Christmas is your favorite? What is it? Is it the 12 drummers drumming, or is it the partridge in a pear tree? If you're still watching, I would love for you to let me know below. Don't forget to go finish watching this entire playlist. You'll love it, and it is linked below. Thanks for watching. Join me again for maybe day 11 of the 12 days of Christmas.